quiet corners of history, there are moments that have quietly endured, rituals that have found their place in time. One of those is the ritual of afternoon tea, a tradition that began in the heart of 19th century England and whose gentle rhythms continue to soothe and calm to this day. Imagine, if you will, a room bathed in the soft golden light of an afternoon sun. The hum of the outside world is distant, almost forgotten. In the center of the room, a table is carefully set, delicate porcelain teacups, silver teaspoons, and plates filled with light pastries, all arranged with a quiet sense of grace. The scent of freshly brewed tea begins to fill the air, its warmth and aroma creating a serene atmosphere, a gentle invitation to pause, to reflect, to slow down. In this space, time seems to slow. Each moment is savored, each action taken with care. The pouring of tea, the clink of silver against china, the soft murmur of conversation. These are the sounds that fill the room, a steady rhythm that encourages relaxation, a return to the present moment. Today we will step back in time and immerse ourselves in this quiet ritual. We will explore the origins of afternoon tea, the serene settings in which it was enjoyed, the careful preparation of tea itself, and the gentle etiquette that surrounded it. As we journey through the soft world of 18th century tea time, let the stillness of the past guide you into a space of calm. There is no rush here, only the soothing pace of a tradition that reminds us of the importance of pausing, of savoring the simple moments in life. Allow yourself to relax and unwind as we take a gentle step back into the world of afternoon tea. So, sit back, let the warmth of the tea, the comfort of the setting, and the serenity of the moment wrap around you as we begin. In the heart of the 19th century, the world was moving at a steady, rhythmic pace, its people following the patterns of dawn and dusk, of quiet rituals that filled the day. Among these patterns was one which would become known throughout England, and eventually the world. It began not with fanfare or grand gestures, but with a simple, quiet moment of reflection. The story begins with a duchess, Anna, the Duchess of Bedford. Anna, as was the custom for many aristocrats of the time, spent her days in a grand home with vast gardens that stretched far into the distance, and rooms adorned with fine artwork and delicate tapestries. Yet, for all the luxury surrounding her, there was something lacking. As with most people of that time, the rhythm of life was controlled by regular meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But there was an extended stretch between lunch and dinner where hunger would begin to creep in. For Anna, this space and time became the canvas for something new. One afternoon, as the sun dipped into the late hours of the day, Anna felt the familiar pangs of hunger. The long hours between meals seemed too much to endure. Rather than continuing to feel the discomfort, she had an idea. She called for a pot of tea, accompanied by simple bread and butter. This modest meal, quiet and simple, became a comforting ritual that Anna began to look forward to. It wasn't just about satisfying her hunger, though. It became a space for reflection. A moment when the world outside slowed down, and she could, for a brief while, retreat from her responsibilities. The afternoon tea ritual had begun. As word spread among her friends and fellow aristocrats, Anna's quiet discovery became something of an event. Her gatherings, held in the quiet comfort of her drawing room, began to attract the interest of others. It was no longer just about tea, but about the peaceful atmosphere she had created. Guests would arrive, and they would be greeted with the soft musical hum of delicate conversation, the faint rustling of lace curtains fluttering in the breeze, and the quiet but constant pouring of tea. It was during these gatherings that the true nature of afternoon tea emerged. It was not simply a meal, but a time, a space in the day dedicated to slowing down. The social aspect of tea was also significant, for these moments were free from the pressures and burdens of everyday life. In a time where much of society's rhythms were determined by work, formal events, and societal obligations, afternoon tea became a much-needed break, a moment to unwind and connect. At first, these tea times were somewhat informal, but as the custom grew, certain rituals began to form. The tea was always served in delicate porcelain cups, adorned with elegant patterns and soft hues. The tea itself was chosen with care, often loose-leaf varieties, freshly brewed in silver or porcelain pots. Small treats would accompany the tea, light sandwiches, scones, or cake, and, as the tradition grew, so did the complexity of the menu. The idea of afternoon tea began to expand beyond Anna's circle, reaching the drawing rooms of other members of the aristocracy. Soon, it spread to the broader public, each person adapting the tradition to fit their own needs and spaces. But no matter how grand or modest the tea party, the fundamental idea remained the same: a moment of peace, a ritual of reflection and quiet joy. As the custom of afternoon tea grew, it began to take on a broader cultural significance. In the early days, it was primarily an activity for the upper class, a symbol of leisure and sophistication. However, over time, it became something more inclusive. People from all walks of life began to embrace this tranquil break in the day, recognizing the importance of pausing, of taking a breath, and of sharing in a simple pleasure. Afternoon tea was no longer just about the tea itself. It became about the setting, the conversation, and the unspoken sense of calm that enveloped the room. The ritual was observed with a soft reverence. Time seemed to slow down, the world outside falling away as guests focused on the moment. The tea was poured with care, the steam rising in delicate swirls, the tea leaves infused slowly, allowing for the perfect flavor to emerge. Guests would gather in elegant drawing rooms, with large windows allowing the soft afternoon light to bathe the room. There, conversation would flow, soft, gentle, and unhurried. The social rituals that accompanied tea were as important as the tea itself. The etiquette that surrounded the event was relaxed but structured. The cups were held by the rim, never by the handle. The teaspoon gently stirred the tea in quiet circles, never clinking. The conversation was gentle, never hurried. The simple act of sitting together and sharing tea became a way to slow the pace of life, to push back against the hurry of the world, to savor the present moment. For those who partook in the ritual, it was a refuge, a sanctuary from the overwhelming rush of everyday life, and this sense of tranquility, of mindful pauses throughout the day, would carry forward into the generations that followed. The tea table itself was a space of great care and importance. It was not just a place for the tea, but a place to reflect the elegance of the ritual. Picture it, a pristine white linen tablecloth stretched over the table, its surface smooth and inviting. On top of the cloth sat a collection of fine china teacups, each one delicate and meticulously painted with intricate designs. Some had flowers, others geometric patterns, all equally elegant in their own right. At the center of the table was the teapot, often silver or porcelain, polished to a soft sheen. The teapot, when lifted, created a gentle sound as it was poured, the liquid cascading in slow, measured streams into the cups below. The tea leaves inside the pot had been carefully chosen, and the water poured over them with exacting care, steeping the leaves until the brew reached its perfect flavor. The ceremony of making the tea was one of patience, and the table bore the weight of this quiet ritual. Scattered around the table were small plates, laden with a variety of pastries. Scones, still warm from the oven, sat next to delicate finger sandwiches filled with cucumber or smoked salmon. The smell of freshly baked treats hung in the air, mingling with the scent of tea. There were delicate cakes, fruit preserves, and biscuits, all designed to complement the tea, to offer a perfect harmony of flavors. Each item was prepared with care, the craftsmanship of the baker evident in every detail. On the table, everything had its place. The teaspoons, placed gently beside the cups, were polished and gleaming. The sugar bowl, containing soft, crystalline lumps of sugar, was placed within easy reach for those who preferred their tea sweetened. Cream was offered, poured gently from a small jug, adding a richness to the tea that enhanced its flavor. Everything on the table was a reflection of the calm and measured pace of the rite. Well, the purpose of the tea table was not only to provide sustenance, but to create an environment in which time seemed to slow, where one could take a breath and enjoy the beauty of the present moment. The room in which afternoon tea was served played a crucial role in establishing the mood. Picture a drawing room, its walls adorned with soft floral wallpaper. Perhaps the wallpaper was a pale yellow, or maybe a soft lavender, with delicate motifs of roses or violets. The windows, large and open to the soft afternoon light, let in a golden hue that filled the room with warmth. The room was furnished with comfortable armchairs and elegant couches, their fabrics soft and inviting. The light shone just enough to illuminate the tea table, casting soft shadows that seemed to dance gently across the room. Lace curtains, perhaps sheer, fluttered ever so slightly with the movement of the breeze, adding to the sense of tranquility. In the corner, there might have been a delicate piano, and soft notes of classical music played in the background, just loud enough to soothe, not intrude. The music was light and flowing, perhaps a waltz or a string quartet, its gentle notes blending with the sound of conversation and the soft clink of teaspoons against porcelain cups. The air itself was warm, infused with the subtle fragrance of fresh flowers from the garden outside. Roses or lavender, perhaps, their scent light and fresh, mingling with the aroma of the tea, creating an atmosphere of quiet serenity. Music during afternoon tea was not an afterthought, it was an integral part of the experience. The pieces played were often light and melodic, designed to provide a soft, calming backdrop for conversation. The music was never loud or jarring, but always gentle, allowing it to fade into the background and add to the ambiance. Imagine a string quartet, perhaps, with violins and a cello, playing a slow and beautiful waltz. The notes of the instruments would seem to fill the space without being overpowering, allowing the guests to converse in soft tones without the need to raise their voices. The rhythm of the music matched the rhythm of the afternoon, slow, deliberate, and graceful. The tea itself was the very essence of the afternoon ritual. It was not just a drink. It was a carefully chosen elixir meant to comfort and soothe. The selection of tea was a deliberate act, often reflecting the preferences of the guests or the time of day. The nature of the tea was important, for it set the tone for the entire experience. Among the most beloved varieties was Earl Grey, a tea flavored with the refreshing notes of bergamot, an aromatic citrus fruit. The scent of Earl Grey tea filled the air with a light floral quality, and the flavor was delicate yet distinct, with just a hint of spice that was both calming and invigorating. The tea leaves were carefully sourced, often from distant lands such as India or China, and each variety was chosen with attention to its aromatic qualities. Then there was Darjeeling, often referred to as the champagne of teas. Known for its light, almost floral taste, Darjeeling was a favorite for afternoon gatherings, as it paired beautifully with delicate pastries and light sandwiches. The leaves of Darjeeling tea were grown in the high altitudes of the Himalayan foothills, imparting a crisp, refreshing taste that evoked the stillness of the mountain air. For those who desired something more robust, Assam tea provided a deep, malty flavor that was both grounding and warming. Its darker notes were perfect for the cooler afternoons of autumn or winter, offering comfort with its rich taste and full body. In addition to these popular varieties, Ceylon and Chinese green teas were also included, each offering their own unique profiles. Some preferred a stronger brew, while others enjoyed a gentler cup. But selecting the right tea was not just about flavor, it was about creating an experience. The act of choosing was one of mindfulness, a reflection of the host's desire to provide a calm, welcoming atmosphere. The selection would often depend on the time of day, perhaps a lighter tea in the afternoon or a more robust one as evening approached. The choice also depended on the season, with floral teas being more favored in spring and summer, while stronger, richer teas came into favor during the colder months. Once the tea was selected, the next step was to prepare the water. In the early 19th century, the process was quite different from the modern electric kettles we use today. Water was heated in a kettle, often made of copper or brass, over a stove or open flame. The sound of the kettle as it began to hum, gradually building into a soft whistle, signaled that the water was nearing the boiling point. As the water was heated, it was important to pay attention to the sound of the kettle, to listen as the steam built up. There was no rush. The water would gradually reach the perfect temperature for the selected tea. For green teas, the water should be slightly cooler, around 160 to 170 degrees Celsius, allowing the leaves to unfurl gently. For stronger black teas like Assam or Darjeeling, the water would reach a full boil, about 200 degrees Celsius. The process of heating the water, like all parts of the tea ceremony, was filled with quiet attention. The sound of the bubbling water was soothing, rhythmic, a gentle reminder to slow down and take time. The ritual was not simply about making tea, it was about immersing oneself in the calm moments that led up to it. There was no rush. The boiling of water was not hurried. It was a reminder that in tea, as in life, there was value in patience. Once the water reached its perfect temperature, the next step was to pour it over the tea leaves. This was a moment of grace and mindfulness. The host would lift the teapot with care, watching the steam rise from the spout. With a steady hand, they would pour the water over the tea leaves, watching as the leaves danced and unfurled in the swirling quid. The tea leaves seemed to float and twist, slowly releasing their essence into the water. The scent of the tea began to fill the room, subtle yet captivating. It was a moment of transformation. What had once been dry, compact leaves now expanded into something alive, something fragrant and full of promise. The tea was allowed to steep for the ideal length of time, which varied depending on the variety. Black teas generally steeped for 3 to 5 minutes, while lighter teas, such as green or white, required only a minute or two. During this waiting period, there was nothing to do but pause and breathe in the rich aroma. The room was filled with the gentle fragrance of the steeping tea, creating a calming atmosphere. There was no rush. It was simply time to wait, to observe the tea as it transformed from leaves into something greater. It was in this waiting that the experience of tea came to life. This is where the peace resided. Each moment stretched out in stillness. As the tea steeped, the host would check the color and strength of the brew. It was a quiet act of mindfulness, adjusting the time and temperature until the tea was just right. The anticipation of the perfect cup of tea was not hurried, but savored. Once the tea had steeped to perfection, it was time for the pouring. The teapot was lifted once more, and the soft gurgle of the liquid as it poured into the cups was a soothing sound. It was a sound that marked the completion of the tea ritual. The liquid flowed gracefully from the pot, filling each delicate teacup with its warm, amber hue. The The pouring of the tea was slow, deliberate, a calming act in itself. The host would hold the teapot gently by its handle, guiding the flow with care. The goal was not just to fill the cup, but to do so with a sense of grace, to create a moment of tranquility in the simple action of serving. The steam rising from the cup added an ethereal quality, making the tea seem almost magical, as though the very air was infused with Thai. The essence of the leaves. Each cup was filled to the perfect amount, neither too much nor too little. The tea was served with care, ensuring that each guest's cup was just right. The pouring of tea was never rushed, but was always done with the intention of creating a moment of quiet pleasure. As the tea was poured, the soft clink of the teacups could be heard as they were placed gently on their saucers. The room was quiet now, save for the occasional murmur of a guest admiring the tea or commenting on its fragrance. The ritual was complete, and now all that remained was to enjoy the tea, to savor its warmth and comfort. Receiving an invitation to afternoon tea was a momentous occasion, especially in the early 19th century. The invitation itself was a symbol of refinement. It would be hand-delivered on thick, embossed stationery, sometimes written in elegant script, with an ornate flourish. The choice of paper, ink, and the careful selection of words conveyed the importance of the event. An invitation to afternoon tea was an invitation to a world of refinement, to a space where time seemed to slow and where guests could relax, connect, and unwind. It was a personal, intimate gathering where etiquette was observed with grace and care. Guests, upon receiving their invitation, would prepare carefully for the occasion. Tea time was a social event, and as such, attire was important. Women might wear soft, flowing gowns in pastel hues, delicate lace gloves, and floral bonnets that complemented the serene atmosphere. Men, too, would dress carefully, with waistcoats and fine trousers, their hair neatly combed. The attire was modest, yet elegant, allowing for comfort and ease while still maintaining a sense of occasion. Upon arrival, guests were greeted warmly by the hostess, who invited them into the tea room with a gentle smile. The room was quiet, the soft glow of the afternoon light casting a golden hue over everything. Guests would take their seats, with the hostess ensuring that each person had a comfortable place to relax. There was no rush, no hurry. The pace of the gathering was slow, deliberate, and filled with grace. Conversation during tea was a delicate affair. Topics were chosen with care. There was no place for heated debates or contentious discussions. The atmosphere was one of serenity, and the conversation matched. It could be about the latest book someone had read, or the beauty of a recent garden bloom, or even the weather, which was always a safe and pleasant topic. The tone of conversation was gentle and reflective, and there was an unspoken understanding that each person should be given space to speak and be heard. Interruptions were rare, for the guests were mindful of one another. Tea time was about connection, not just with one another, but with the calming rituals that surrounded them. As the tea time drew to a close, there was no rush to leave. Guests lingered for a moment, savoring the last sips of tea and the final bites of delicate treats. The hostess would thank each guest for coming, offering a soft smile and a warm handshake. The departure was as graceful as the arrival, with guests leaving slowly, each one feeling refreshed and renewed by the quiet ceremony of tea. Though the world has changed dramatically since the days of the Duchess of Bedford, the tradition of afternoon tea remains steadfast. In modern times, it continues to be a beloved ritual practiced not only in England but around the world. While the finer details may differ, some prefer a more casual setting, others continue the tradition with an air of formality. The essence of the ritual remains unchanged. Afternoon tea still represents a moment of pause, a space in which time slows down and people come together to connect and reflect. For many, afternoon tea is a moment of personal reflection. It is a time to step away from the busyness of life and to immerse oneself in quiet contemplation. The ritual serves as a reminder of the importance of mindfulness, of being present in the moment, and of finding joy in the simple pleasures of life. Tea time is a personal sanctuary, a reminder that amidst all the noise, there is always room for quiet, for reflection, and for connection. As we look ahead, the ritual of afternoon tea promises to endure. In a fast-paced, ever-changing world, it remains a comforting constant, a symbol of calm and connection. The tradition, like the tea itself, will continue to steep, slowly but surely, in the hearts of those who seek a moment of peace in a busy world. And so we come to the end of our journey through the quiet rituals of 18th century tea time. As we take a moment to reflect, we realize that it wasn't just the tea itself that made this ritual so special, but the peaceful space it created, a time when the world seemed to slow down, when the rush of life faded into the background, and all that mattered was the gentle act of sharing a moment of calm with others or with oneself. The act of preparing and enjoying tea Whether in the grand drawing rooms of aristocratic homes or in quieter, more intimate settings, served as a reminder that there is value in stillness. In a world often filled with noise and haste, this tradition provided a peaceful pause, a moment to savor the simplicity of the present. Perhaps, in this very moment, you feel the quiet resonance of that same calm, that same sense of peaceful ritual. Perhaps you found a little space in your day, just like those who enjoyed afternoon tea centuries ago, to step away from the busyness of life and simply be. Whether it's the gentle clink of your own teacup or the soft, rhythmic pour of tea from the kettle, you may have felt a sense of connection to that tradition, to those moments of stillness that transcend time. In the delicate dance of tea preparation, the soft laughter of conversation, and the beauty of the shared ritual, we find more than just an afternoon indulgence. We find a space to pause, to breathe, and to reconnect with the quiet rhythms that remind us of our place in the world. These moments, simple yet profound, offer us a chance to recharge and center ourselves in the present. As we part ways, let the memory of the afternoon tea linger gently in your mind, an invitation to slow down and appreciate the quieter moments in life. The tradition endures because, at its heart, it offers us something we all need, a break from the world, a chance to reconnect, and an opportunity to savor the simple joy of a cup of tea. Thank you for sharing this quiet, reflective journey with me. May the stillness of afternoon tea, with its soft rhythm and serene beauty, continue to find its place in your day, long after the final sip.